First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How are you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, we're going to do a quick dialogue again on something we've covered once before, but I want to re-explore it because it seems to be a question that's it's asked a lot. It's how do we deal with a disrespectful inmate? Me and Russ had a live Q&A yesterday. It was a great dialogue, and the question came up again, so I thought it was something that we could just quickly explore. So when we come back from our sponsor, it's just going to be me today, and I'm going to discuss my perspective on dealing with a disrespectful inmate. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about dealing with the disrespectful inmate. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Thank you guys for listening to our sponsor. You know, dealing with disrespectful inmates, it's going to happen. I think that's why it's one of the most popular questions that's asked on this platform, because at any moment we could be dealing with disrespectful inmates. Sorry guys, check out my neighborhood. Just doing a nice little walk. It's nice out. Weather's getting better. You know, me and Russ, we hit the question up yesterday when it was asked, and I said, you know what? You know, this is actually covered a lot on our channel, but it doesn't hurt to re-explore something just to make sure that, you know, we cover all thoughts. But also, some people haven't seen the older videos, so it's good to kind of go back and touch on topics that we've once touched on before. Could always add more value. So right off the bat, guys, we are going to have disrespectful inmates. And what it is, guys, I want you guys to know it's a test of control. That's what it is. You know, when an inmate challenges you and becomes disrespectful, what are they doing? They're testing you. They want you in some cases to be aggressive. They want you to lose a sense of control over yourself. So the first thing you have to do is maintain control of yourself, because there's no way you're going to control the environment. There's no way you're going to control that inmate if you have no sense of control over yourself. And the best advice I ever got with this is when dealing with a disrespectful inmate, yes, it has to be dealt with. It cannot be ignored, but it's also about timing. You can be strategic in your response and make sure that at all times that inmate knows that you're the one in control. But again, it has to be handled. It's something that cannot be ignored. So I have two stories I'll share real quick that dealt with my situation with dealing with disrespectful inmates. One is I could have been a little better in my handling, and the second story is me actually being better at handling that disrespect. So again, it's a story I shared on the platform before, but there may be some that haven't heard it. So when I first got this job in corrections, I worked at a female facility, and females, they could challenge orders. Doesn't mean they're not doing it. It just means that they can challenge it. So when I was working a dorm one day, I was giving an inmate directives to clean. Now, the inmate was still cleaning, but she was kind of mouthing off, being disrespectful, and we wind up having a back and forth, a tit for tat. And for me, every time she said something foolish, I took it as she was challenging my authority. Now, mind you, she's still doing what's expected of her. She's still cleaning, but she just had a mouth off, had to have that final word. And now we were in a dorm, so we were surrounded by her peers. So now I'm concerned about my image and not wanting to lose that perception of authority. So we're going back and forth, and I had a senior officer, great dude, who kind of saw this happening and kind of let me go through this. I needed to go through this, so he let me go through this. And then when the moment was done, he called me into the office. He goes, "How'd you think you had that handled? Like, you think you did well?" And in my mind, very immature that I was at the time, I thought I did well. because she was still doing the order, and I didn't back down. And he goes, you know what's funny is, if you look around you, all the inmates just saw you not being in any level of control. They saw you kind of losing your level of control because the inmate was just challenging you. He goes, I will guarantee you that if you take that inmate aside, away from her peers, away from any influence that conflicts with what you want done, she'll be a different individual. And you'll also establish that level of control. So I tried that the next day, brought the inmate into the office, and it was like a breath of fresh air for the inmate. I remember her just walking in going, whew. And I was like, are you kidding me? And she goes, Gange, you know, even though we're having this back and forth, I'm surrounded by, you know, inmates are expecting me to do that. So now all you were doing was feeding flame into the fire. Had I had more control of myself, and like the officer said, I should have just said, you know what, come on, let me talk to you in the office. Instead of addressing it on the floor with her peers who would reinforce negative behavior. I had no control of one, I guess, myself, and then next, the environment. So the advice that the officer gave me was an effort to do both. Gange, go in that office, take a breather, control yourself, and then call her in. Now you have control of the environment, and now you can present your argument a little bit better. And I never had a problem with that female sense. Never. The next time around, I was a sergeant in a male facility, and I had an inmate that I saw stealing chicken and giving it to his homies in the mess hall. And I addressed the inmate on that. Could have picked better timing because I actually addressed the inmate in front of his homies. But I could have waited it out. But either way, I addressed it. The inmate had an immediate response. I was only picking on him because of the color of his skin, and it just irked me. But I held my cool. I learned from last time. And then when mess was over, I brought the inmate into an area. I spoke to the inmate. I asked the inmate, did I ever give them any reason to believe that, you know, I judge people by the color of their skin, or were you stealing chicken? Because I can go back and prove that, and you'll be lucky to have a job. So what I'm asking right now is I want the apology. I want the apology, or I take your job. The inmate did give me the apology. Now, however sincere it was, I don't know, but point is I did get the apology. The inmate was never a problem afterwards, and I established my level of control. I had control of the environment, I had control of myself, and it worked out in the long run. So again, it was about timing. And guys, believe it or not, when dealing with the disrespectful inmate, we do have things within our policy and procedures that can help us respond professionally to that, which also gives us that level of control. So if you have an inmate that's being disrespectful, maybe it's time we search the area a few more times. I mean, yeah, there's the write-ups. I mean, we could always write them up, and that's key. But sometimes that may not solve the issue because maybe that's what the inmate wants. So sometimes it's best to kind of handle it where the level of control comes from you personally, not because of the write-up. Now, again, if it's something that becomes out of hand and very disruptive, then yes, you're going to have to write the inmate up, and hopefully the inmate, you know, gets taken out of your unit, does some time, and comes back, and hopefully their behavior has been corrected. But sometimes the biggest respect comes from the officers that don't always go to that paper and that handle it on their own, at least the first time. You know, to put that inmate in check and let that inmate know you're not going to tolerate that. Because I think the inmates know that anytime we can go to paper. But that doesn't mean that we're in control. Sometimes that means that we're relying on something else to handle it. Like maybe that supervisor who's now going to have to come into the unit because we did the write-up. I think for me, initially handling it on my own, addressing it on my own, lets the inmate know I don't need anybody at that point. This is between us, and I'm not going to allow that type of disrespect. But the key here that I want you guys to get from the end of this dialogue is that we need to always have control. Control of ourselves, control of the environment. If we have that, then we can actually handle disrespectful inmates in a very professional way. That's the key, guys. Dealing with the inmate in a very professional way. Remember, guys, if you expose your buttons, they're going to push it all day. You cannot allow that. So part of the strategy here is also timing. Remember that too, timing. You're not chasing pride here. This is not about you chasing your pride. This is about being effective, but more importantly, being seen as effective. Oh, my neighborhood. I wonder if I jumped a little on that horn. Either way, good way to end it. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.